We feel very sorry for everything that this has done to them. And I think her comments are genuine and heartfelt. I respect them. And as I told her, we're committed to safety going forward. That's my focus as a leader of Boeing.
I know it's your focus, but you know there are people who believe that your words today ring hollow. What do you say to them?
Well, Phil, I understand there's a lot of challenges, a lot of opinions. There's a lot of sorrow around these accidents, and it's important that we respond to those, that we take responsibility for it. And I know it's hard, but I can tell you our commitment is relentless. It is resolute, and we are focused on safe airplanes. That's our job. That's our business. That's what's made Boeing great for 103 years, and that's what we're going to do going forward.
But you had more than one representative who say, you're not the person, you should resign.
No, I understand those inputs, Phil, and I respect them. But again, my focus here is on taking responsibility, owning it. We know what we need to fix. We're making those changes. We're going to continue to get better as a company, and I remain resolute on that responsibility.
Will you waive your compensation this year?
That's wall behind you.
Phil, again, compensation is a decision that my board will make, and they'll do a comprehensive review.
Dennis, to your right.
Dennis Muilenburg there leaving his hearing on Capitol Hill. Phil Lebeau posing some very tough and important questions to him. It was, of course, a heated exchange earlier when one congressman said, if you're not giving up any of your pay, how are you accountable? He gave the same answer there, once again, deflecting it to the responsibility of the board, not himself. We should point out yesterday, Morgan, of course, Boeing stock rose during the Senate hearing over 2% today. It's fallen by less than 1%. Did I hear that Phil Lebeau is able to join us? Someone please clarify. Yes, he is. Phil Lebeau is able to join us. Phil, let's listen in.
I hear you. Guys, you hear me?
Phil, here comes Phil Lebeau, who's able to join us. Phil,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. If summarize, Phil, the tone there you heard from Dennis Muilenburg. He looked to me, you know him much better than I, he looked like he's had a tough couple of days.
He's had a very tough couple of days, and I'll tell you in particular, the last half of today and the last half of yesterday, he was hammered. Now, yesterday, it started with Ted Cruz saying, you're the CEO, the buck stops with you, how could you let this happen? But we really didn't hear many senators yesterday say, you got to resign. You can't be leading this company. Well, we heard that today. We heard that time and again. We also heard a number of representatives saying, how can you be paid what you've been paid, given what has happened with the 737 MAX? $23 million was his full compensation, including a bonus last year. And you heard the last representative when she said, look, I've done some back-of-the-envelope calculations, and when you factor in your stock compensation and all of that which would go into full-year benefits, you stand to make several $1 million more than that, maybe $30 million, depending on how those are structured. And she said, how do you feel about that? He said, we've already said that there's going to be no executive bonus compensation this year for Boeing. So there's a piece of news there. But as you heard when I asked him going down the hallway, will you waive your pay this year? I mean, that's at a minimum what I think the victims' families want to hear. And I don't know if you guys heard at the end of the testimony, one of the relatives of one of the victims confronted him. And maybe confronting is the wrong word to use, but stopped him. And there was an exchange there for at least 4 or 5 minutes. And by the time we got in there, she made it very clear, you're not the person to fix this situation at Boeing. You should go back to the farm, because that's in reference to him saying, I grew up on a farm in Iowa. I'm committed to seeing this through. That's about, the work ethic that I have to make sure that everything is righted with this situation. And she said, you should go back to the farm. So, guys, this was a really rough day for Dennis Muilenburg, and it raises questions for the board of directors. With so many senators and representatives publicly calling for him to be fired, do they, A, issue a statement saying, we understand, we're not doing anything right now, or do they take some action? I'm not sure that they will take action, but clearly this message rang out loud and clear over the last couple of days.
Yeah. Phil, I'm sorry, Morgan.
I was going to say, Phil, I mean, the conversations I seem to be having with folks both on Wall Street and within the aerospace industry, especially given the testimony over the last 2 days, is that his job does seem much more uncertain, especially when return to service for the 737 MAX actually happens. If that ends up being the case here, is there somebody who can readily step into his shoes?
Well, they've got a deep bench. The question becomes, when you look at that bench, who would you elevate up into another position? Now, there are a number of executives who could do that. The question becomes for the board of directors, if they decide that Dennis Muilenburg has to go, do they bring in somebody and they say, look, main thing here is let's get us through return to service and airlines using this plane again and start to rebuild some of that public trust. Then we will think about a permanent CEO. It could be you. It could be somebody else. How do they structure any possible replacement for Dennis Muilenburg? And I know we've said this before, guys, but we have to say it again. We have no indication that the board is considering replacing him. We know that the senators and the representatives think he should be gone, and we know that others will look at this and say, how can he stay in this job? But officially, the company, the board of directors are standing by him. Whether that changes remains to be seen.